Hey, just wanted to kind of go over some of the things that have been kind of happening. So for those of you that haven't like been following me on Twitter, for example, like essentially I created this game like I think at the end of what is it, March, the end of February. So it kind of launched I think a couple days into March, and it was for this it was for Scroll, the Scroll network, and Scroll is like the zkEVM, the native zk rollup. I guess that's kind of how they're marketing themselves, essentially branding, I guess. But I essentially made this game. I thought about 50 to 200 people were going to play. It turns out within 3 weeks, like 50K mints happened. So that's fucking nuts. A lot of things, some things broke. Some things held up a lot better than I thought. I've just never written code or done anything in my life that like people actually like use. I mean, for example, I make these videos and like what, like maybe a dozen people watch them, if that, maybe like 10. Because I guess some of the views are me just like checking to see what's going on. But I guess it's not that I'm rambling. But anyways, to have 50,000 people play a video game that you made in your room over like 4 or 5 days, I think I basically just sat at my desk and this guy SLV, shout out SLV, that dude's a legend. Basically helped me like update a bunch of my front end, a bunch of my CSS framing, because I suck at that. And honestly, I don't give a shit. I'm very sloppy. Like if you actually look at the way that like the web app's made, it doesn't even have a correct URL. It's just scroll dash. I don't know. I think I'd use like Firebase or something. Some shit I saw some Udemy tutorial. So that was quick. But anyways, yeah, I mean to have 50,000 mints, and I have a script that actually runs the unique addresses because obviously you can mint as many characters you want, it's free. But the unique addresses is about 25,000. I wonder what percent of that is people like just switching over to account or whatever. But to almost have a 50% true player ratio, so you're assuming that on average maybe each person makes like 1.8 to like 2.2 mints. It's still pretty good. So like, because as a metaverse person, I guess I kind of look at it as like each mint is a person, if you know what I mean, because you are creating a character to live in this game. So from the kingdom's perspective, I guess, but human people, I think it's about 25,000 people, give or take. Those numbers obviously aren't really perfect, and it's kind of impossible to tell because you obviously can't just have another address on the same wall, whatever. But in general, yeah, that is pretty nuts. And Scroll, I think, was doing 300K transactions. It peaked at like 490. I think now it's like back to like low 400s. But we were actually doing about like, I think 30K was our peak. So at one point, we almost had 10% of the network transaction. I mean, obviously, it doesn't look that way. And if I had to be like honest, it probably is. You could maybe say 6, maybe you could say 7, but realistically, it's probably like 4, 3. I think today is probably like 3 or 4. I was running the math. 4 if you're being optimistic, but it's always going to be conservative. So I think like 3%, to be 3% of a fucking network. And you got to think Scroll was valued at $1.8 billion. And that was before the most recent pop off with all this bank bullshit and the terminal rate. I guess the terminal rate's technically still at 5% or whatever. 5%. But I mean, if you look at the implied funds going forward, the market's kind of pricing that there's going to be one more hike, and then I think they're going to start to inflect and go down. I don't really want to speculate that. I mean, it's interesting within itself talking about like macro policy and shit, but primarily right now I'm just trying to talk about this game, which is kind of nuts. The game is honestly pretty simple. I mean, you basically but to have 50,000 people and to be doing 3%, I mean, like let's go like really manic here and say like, oh, we did 10%. 10% is high, but maybe like one day, let's say we're like on average doing like 4 or 5%. That's still fucking nuts. Like considering that this network is worth $1.8 billion. I believe that they just raised, don't quote me on this, they raised like 50 million, north of 50 million, at a $1.8 billion valuation, which is fucking crazy, considering that this network isn't even live yet. But zkEVMs are big, and I've played around. The only zkEVMs I've really played around were testnet wise are the Polygon zkEVM that I was kind of talking about, the Scroll zkEVM, and this Polygon one is glitchy as fuck. Like I was trying to bridge shit over. It was annoying. They have like this weird, like you have to confirm the transaction. It's just not a smooth bridge. The bridge isn't very smooth. 2, I'm still waiting for it to fucking load. It's been like over an hour. I don't know what the hell is happening with the Gorelli bridge to their testnet, but knowing Polygon and look, I want to respect Polygon. Polygon is like the OG of like the scaling solutions, even though technically they're not like an L2. It's really more of a sidechain, proof of stake, plasma, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But it still is impressive. I do remember like the first time that I really did bridge to a more efficient network from my base Ethereum, whatever ecosystem. I did think that Polygon was groundbreaking. Obviously, there's issues with multi-sig proof of stake in general. However, they're doing the validator sets, and like a lot of people are saying that they're marketing the stuff as an Ethereum compatible. They're not really a Type 1 zkEVM, or sorry, a zk roll up, just a roll up in general, because they cut some corners. I don't know. I mean, look, there's a lot of debate about that. I'm not really the most technically proficient to go out and say that, but just to say that like over a million, not a million. So what the hell am I saying? But like theoretically, this game could be worth some money. Right. I mean, if you think about it, like it's having this much transaction on the network, and this network is worth like 1.8 billion conservatively. And that's pre-market, right? I mean, wait until they actually drop their coin or releases or whatever, or who even knows how this thing's going to be valued. But this is a valued network, right? Like, and as far as I can tell, this is probably the best like UI experience, the user experience I've ever had. I love the team. Like Swagdamus is great. He was the one that got me into this network. I just think it's efficient. I mean, it's faster, it's quicker. It's supposed to be like the most secure, I guess you could say, out of like the roll-up solutions I've seen right now. I mean, I think it's going to give Arbitrum a run for its money. Oh, that being said, I did qualify for a sizable Arbitrum drop, maybe give or take. I don't know. Allegedly, who knows? I saw a lot of things. I mean, if the government, the IRS is listening on the show, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm drunk right now. I don't know. You can't hold this against me. Like it won't hold up in a court of law. But but the thing is, what I'm trying to say is that like the hunters, there's hunters for this shit, and like I think that you're going to be able to get transaction. What do people want? If you really think about it, right? Like I'm thinking that this is the type of business model I think makes a lot of sense, because what's the issue with a lot of like Web3 gaming? A lot of Web3 gaming has barrier to entries. They release these sets, right? Like if you look at NFTs are kind of stupid in my opinion, because like you're basically just trying to make money off of artificial scarcity. And yes, anyone can deploy another contract. And obviously, yes, you could basically just copy the code, but it's not going to be the exact contract, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we all get it. I just think that a lot of them are basically trying to foster these systems, right? By having people have this economic buy-in, by saying like, oh, you're getting loyalty because you feel like you know, our boys didn't die in war. I didn't pay for this NFT for no reason. I wanted to go up. It's kind of like, if anything, that is truly more of a cult mentality. But I'm thinking from the perspective, think of League of Legends. League of Legends is arguably the biggest game. I mean, there's some metrics and depends when you look and depends how you blah, 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 I guess. But League of Legends is fat as fuck. Let's be honest here. I've been playing League forever. Well, maybe not forever. That's hyperbolic, but I've been playing at least since high school, right? So it's been, I think, at least well over a decade, give or take. But if you really think about it, they didn't even really have a freemium model. They basically just had a free model because they just let people mint. I mean, they just let people make an account. You can play. If you want a skin is aesthetic, right? You can pay with that with real money. And I think a similar business model actually makes sense for Web3 development. Hear me out. So a lot of people are really trying to make money off that quick, like bang. They're trying to get that quick, like first date, like to use whatever, like first date fuck language, right? Like they're trying to get that like ASAP Rocky. But what you really should be doing is you need to cultivate the users. The users are arguably your most valuable asset, because you can bring those users over to a different network. You can generate transactions for a network. And from the user's perspective, it's a free game. And if you're launching it early on these test nets, whatever is EVM compatible, right? You're launching it immediately there. They're going to be able to farm. They're going to be able to farm transactions for only the cost of the transactions cost, right? So now they can qualify for these airdrops. So instead of having to actually bridge a good chunk of money over, sure, like if they do it in an Arbitrum way in the TVL, you're not going to get exactly. But in my opinion, I don't necessarily know if that's the right way to do it. I think what you should be going for, if I was like one of these networks, is I'd be going for transaction volume, because transaction volume means people, right? That's actually the amount of like network activity that's going independent, unique activity, I think is ideal, because at the end of the day, all this shit is just network effects. And that's why it kind of pisses me off, not really pisses me off, but it rubs me the wrong way when the Bitcoin max. I can't say that like I'm not at fault here, because I've also said this shit in the past, but like when you really think about it, they're like, oh no, Bitcoin's protected by math. But like, is Bitcoin really protected by math? I mean, it's not really. It was protected by code math. I mean, yes, but no, not really. I mean, anyone that's written code knows that you can rewrite code, right? At the end of the day, this is a decentralized, distributed technology, however, this decentralized ledger technology, right? But like, you can fork, right? Like, let's say someone does some funky shit. I'm a miner. I'm verified. I mean, I can run a different version of Bitcoin. I can just choose to not like accept certain transactions, the mempool or force. I have a lot of like, I could user activate software. There's a lot of ways that I can go about this, right? But at the end of the day, it's a game theoristic thing, because you want to move toward the network where everyone's using. So at the end of the day, Bitcoin is still like at the end of the day, I think it's protected by game theory. Yes, the math and the code and the overall like logic does factor into game theory. Obviously, game theory has some aspects of math. There's a reason in undergrads usually taught like an upper level class after you've taken certain math requirements and economics. Not trying to say that means that you have to know those things. I'm just saying that there obviously is some math. I mean, if you like take basic game theory, like the most simple Nash equilibrium, right? Like that does make sense. That incorporates some level of math, which is kind of pissing me off, especially because people keep talking about the hyperinflation bullshit. Obviously, that's so fucking stupid. Again, I can't say that like I haven't been there myself, but I don't want to talk too much about. I just thinking that when it comes to these games, right? Because theoretically, a lot of these networks they'll pay for people to use, and they're not like they're going to give you like these backward facing retroactive like grants, right? That's kind of becoming more of a common theme. I'm seeing that in Scroll. I've seen that in Optimism. And so basically, if you can generate a bunch of users, I think it's very possible that they might just give you some shit, right? But what do you do with that money? Let's say they give you 50 grand with the token. It could be more, who knows? But let's just say they give you $50,000 grant. What do you do? In my opinion, I think maybe as a dev, you could keep like 1% of it, but you don't have to. I mean, what you could do, and if maybe the long-term ideal thing to do is just give that $50,000 away, split it up. Be like, look, you play this game, you get a high score, you achieve a certain thing, you get $5, you get $10. You basically play people to pay the game, but it's not coming out of my pocket anyway, because like it's just it's their money. You know, I'm just basically just the conduit from whatever. I'm just helping them monetize. So now you're creating a play to earn that's also free. Because a lot of these play to earns, whatever you want to look at them, they have these weird barrier to entries. Even Awagachi, I think, is kind of weird in the sense where, like, yes, they are kind of like the forefathers of the shit. However, like, when you think about their lending contracts are so contingent on you being able to pay it back to some degree, because people want some sort of return for them lending you their Awagachi asset, for example, right? Which I think is kind of fucking, it's smart, and it has its applications for sure. It's ahead of its time. But in a lot of aspects, from a game theoristic perspective, I don't really know if I think that that's the ideal way of going about this. Case in point, when you can really think about it, like, if you are giving, like, you just want people to play. You want as many people to play your game as possible. You want to create a loyal user base, right? Has low barrier entry. And I think you let people trade, because if people want to trade their characters, you can do it that way too. And you can maybe even add a fee if you really wanted to. You could add, like, oh, like, you use this coin, you don't pay, you use this coin, you have to pay, or like we take like point whatever, where we send it to a DAO, the DAO's distributor sends it to, who knows? There's a lot of options you can do about this, and I'm not criticizing any one way or do it, because I haven't really thought it through, and honestly, I don't know. I don't, like, tech wise, obviously it's possible to code in. I just don't really know the financial implications or like the long-term like social implications of it, which are arguably are very important. I just think that, like, what people want is a free game. But, like, devs are constantly, like, people want the money without having to do the work, which is kind of like what I'm saying is, like, people want to take that girl out and not have to buy her dinner, just take her out. I mean, ideally, she just comes over to your house, right? Like, that's a perfect scenario. And then, like, it's like, whatever, you deal with what you got. I mean, that's what people want, essentially. They're like, look, I, like, go to the gym, I do all this work, I'm like ripped now. You take all these pictures, you post them on like some things, some girls like on her point of the ovulation cycle, I guess, I suppose, or whatever, who knows? She just like, hey, I'm down to come over. That's what a lot of these NFT projects seem like. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. I mean, fundamentally, I don't have anything against that personally. I don't see anything wrong. If that's how you want to go about your dating life, that's cool with me. However, I think when you think about, if you're trying to foster an actual environment, I don't really know if that's always necessarily the right way to go. And it's a similar thing if you use the dating metaphor that I was using. It's maybe not always the best way to cultivate or like to filter whatever. But again, it depends what you're going for, and also who it is possible that way. But at the end of the day, you want to be different, right? You want to give the users something different, a different experience. You want to provide them with something they don't necessarily have. And like, yes, sometimes does that mean like taking that girl out for dinner and like paying for her dinner or some shit? Like, yes, maybe, but like, is it sometimes beneficial to do that? I don't know. A lot of people, maybe like the true sigmas or the incels, will disagree with me. I don't know. I just think that as an experiment, it is fascinating. And just to get the user base, the user growth in general, I think is the biggest thing for me. And I want to thank everyone that actually played this game, helped me out. And version 2 is definitely coming soon. It's in the works. So yeah, hopefully that will be a thing. But anyways, yeah, that was just kind of my little ramble about how crazy it is to finally have a game, or I spent so many, and I tweeted this, I spent so many fucking years coding random shit that nobody gave a fuck about. Like, from bots to different like blockchain applications, like just random shit that I've been coding for years. Like, and maybe 1 or 2 people ever saw it, and the people that saw it didn't really see it for what it was. And to finally see like over 50,000 minutes, I would say 25,000 people played this game, 25,000 people in a week. I mean, in a month, less than 3 weeks, less than 3 motherfucking weeks, less than 1 month, 25,000 people have played a game that I whipped up in like a couple of days. This game is dog shit. There's so many fucking errors. The contract's not upgradable. For the next version, I'm using the diamond standard, because look, if people want to play this shit, I need to be able to update quests. I need to be able to update leaderboards. I need to be able to update like a bunch of stuff in the game. You want new items? I can give you new items. You want new quests? You want new training? You want new, like, every bosses? I can put that in retroactively now. Not retroactively. That's not the right word, but retroactive. After retroactive deployment, yes, essentially. But I don't know, just to see that like 50,000, like the amount of transactions on this shit too is insane to me. Like 222,000 transactions of this criminal, 222,000. It's almost 250,000 transactions in less than a month on one contract that I whipped up in my room, that I basically just got from the hackathon that I went to in San Francisco last year. I reused a bunch of that code. I don't even think I changed the contract name. How fucking funny is that? Shout out to my boy Mark too. He's the one that came up with the original idea for the contract and the images that are hosted on IPFS. So, you know, got to give respect where respect is due. Just crazy to me just to have like people. Do you have any like game studios, products, marketing? Like, if you could get 25 individual users, like, I didn't even market this. I didn't pay a goddamn cent for any marketing thing. You know, I made this game, I just deployed it. Someone else tweeted it and it was fucked up. Like, the image preview thing that you're supposed to do in the little HTML index, whatever I don't even remember how the fuck that shit's supposed to work. You're supposed to have a little image preview bullshit or like whatever. I was just too lazy to do it. Dude, I didn't even have a correct URL. You think I give a flying fuck? People still use this shit. I don't know how it was floated around Twitter. I think people just hyped around the Skull Alpha release. I think it was kind of the right place, the right time type of thing, where I did get very lucky. But nonetheless, it's just crazy to know that there are people that like the shit that you make. I mean, that is an insane feeling. Sometimes I feel like I'm kind of like a SoundCloud artist, or I'm just some dude that has been like grinding around in the fucking G League for years, and now I'm like finally getting my shot. Like boom, like that one dude from the Lakers, like that Mark Ingram guy from a couple of years ago. I kind of feel like that in some aspects. I mean, it's a nice feeling. I don't know. And it makes me want to work harder. And it finally makes me feel like I'm doing the shit that I want to do. I don't know. Like I had to call like some Apple recruiter hit me up like that. No, I'm losing track of the day. Shit, was that yesterday? No, 2 days ago. What the fuck day is it? Wednesday? Yeah. And I was just like, I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be arrogant or say that like that's not a good way of life, or I would like love to like, have that opportunity. I'm just saying that like does make me think. It makes me contemplate like what I do want to do with my time, what I want to do with my like energy. Because at the end of the day, I only have so much time and energy. And if I could use it on this, God damn it, that seems like damn near my best life. I mean, this kind of makes me feel like I'm years ahead. Like if I can actually get this shit launched, and we are talking, some early alpha. I'm working with SOV as like one of the larger ERC20 tokens on Arbitrum Gem. And, we're kind of talking about ways that maybe we could get like partners to Treasure, Arbitrum, stuff like that, get that type of partnership that I don't know if they necessarily get funding, but just the exposure in general makes it worth it. Stuff like that. But no, it's awesome. I just spent so many years coding so much random bullshit, just making random shit, whether that's YouTube videos or whatever. I mean, the YouTube video thing was kind of cool because last time I did get it be featured in the Wall Street Journal. So that kind of felt like validation. I guess macroeconomically, that kind of made me feel like I was validated to some degree. Just being interviewed by Paul Kieran and have that shit be published was kind of like surreal. And I would say this is even more surreal, honestly, because like this I feel like is more justified. The last one, meh. I mean, it's the Wall Street Journal. It's kind of stupid to me, honest. It's like old tech. But this is cool. I mean, this is like emerging technology. Like Scroll is a pretty fucking cool network. Like honestly, just technically it's all, I mean, I encourage everyone to check it out. Maybe I can make a video about going over the details later, but it's code I want to write. And it's code I'm fucking proud of. I mean, yeah, it's buggy as shit. And yeah, I kind of like did copy most of it, but like, holy shit, it's beautiful. I mean, I don't know. Life is good. Like just when you know that like, holy shit, I don't know. It's just validating. Like it's encouraging. It makes me think that like, I always knew that I had some interesting shit whipped up. I just needed the right time for people to see it. I knew I fucking had it. It's random because I went from like just being an app. I'm still a nobody. I mean, obviously no one knows who I fucking have this video. Probably get like 5 views, but I don't know. Wild. All right. Later.